My name is Lou Magazoo. I'm the chair of the Cannabis Department of the Wiener Law Group, New Jersey. We've got 70 lawyers in 8 offices. I'm a former county commissioner, a municipal attorney, and I've been in this field since about 2018. With me, I've got some really smart and actually fun people I think you'll enjoy. I've got Kyle Sherman, the founder and CEO of FlowHub rather. I've got, who's next? Okay, Wendy Berger, CEO and founder of WS Equities. And next is John Lowen, co-CEO of Surfside. And rounding out is Chris Ostrowski, the CTO of Dutchie. And welcome, everybody. Thank you for being here. We appreciate all of you. So what we want to do is kind of have like a conversation as if we were in your living rooms or retail shops or wherever we might be, talk about the industry and particularly the interaction of technology and how that's improving the customer experience. So why don't we start? Throw the ball to you.
Sure, yeah, well, thanks so much for having us, and thanks for Benzinga for throwing this great event. Yeah, I'm Chris Ostrowski. I'm the founding CTO over at Dutchie. We are the largest technology provider in the cannabis industry, providing everything from e-commerce to point of sale to payment processing to wholesale tools. And yeah, I think the topic here is how is technology ultimately helping the retailers? How are we leveraging every touch point, looking at the customer journey from a lens of what optimizations can be found, how can you build that authentic connection to your customers. And our vision at Dutchie is really leaning into a lot of the newer age technology, things like machine learning and AI, to bring a tighter sense and a stronger sense of personal connection to each individual one of those consumers. So it's been a fun couple of weeks for us with a new product announcement, Dutchie 2.0. And we're really excited to get a lot of feedback and see how some of this kind of, like I said, next generation technology can really be leveraged to kind of get back to a lot of the roots of what cannabis retail is all about, that one-on-one personal connection, which I think is so important these days to keep customers coming back, to not so much leverage the race to the bottom in pricing and discounting every single transaction, but keep your customers coming back because your store knows them better than any other store on the block.
John, just a little bit about your background and also your sense of where the industry is, and particularly with respect to the technology interface.
Yeah, continuing kind of on that theme around personalization and customer centricity. I'm John, I'm co-CEO of Surfside. We operate an end-to-end marketing technology in the space, among other verticals, but our focus really is how do we take information from your first-party data sets, from your point of sale, from your CRM, your e-com, start to use that information to run better marketing campaigns and target people based off of the products that they're looking to see. So how can we bring that information to create personalized ads, creatives, content on websites and apps where people are spending their time, whether it's the USA Today's or the local digital version of that newspaper in that market. How can we bring them to those sites for customer acquisition campaigns, for abandoned carts, increasing our better loyalty programs, whatever it may be, velocity of sales. And then we also offer programs for brands that allow them to advertise within e-commerce stores and marketplaces, in-store screens, through retail media and better digital merchandising. And so the theme of that we're seeing right now in the retail space is really this personalization and the ability to use AI and machine learning to make sure that not only are the ads relevant to the users, but the e-com experience is relevant to them as well. So I think that everyone's kind of marching in the right direction here.
So Wendy, you're the CEO and founder of WS Equities. You've been in this space for a while.
12 years.
Which,
truly an old lady.
Well, no, not just gone through a lot of the battles, I'm sure, and seen the ups and downs. What's your sense of the industry today, particularly with respect to technology and the way that it can maximize the customer relationship?
Delighted to be here with this great group of people today. Today I'm playing the role of consumer on this panel. It's an important role
for all of us.
For those of you who don't know me, Wendy Berger, early investor in the industry, was among the first investors in Green Thumb Industries, spent 10 years on the Green Thumb board. Today, mostly just spending my time investing and advising women in the industry. I'm still very concerned, and concerned isn't the right word. I'm still seeking great solutions, and I think this group here is really working on it and focused in the right direction and making the experience frictionless. It is still not, in my opinion, a frictionless experience. I think we all know it can be better. And it's the creativity of companies like FlowHub, like Dutchie, like Surfside, and a few others who are trying and experimenting and really working hard to bring in the best technology to make the experience better. But I think we all can say it's not where we want it to be, but it's in sight. I think we can see it, and we just have to keep working harder to find it and listening to our customers.
I actually think we're getting pretty damn close at this point.
I'm really excited. That's part of why I want to be here, is to hear this.
We've made a lot of progress over the last decade. By the way, I'm Kyle. I'm the founder and CEO of FlowHub. I founded FlowHub almost 11 years ago now. We were the first integrator with Metric back in the day, and it's been a crazy journey. In 21, we started building a new platform. We launched that in late 22 called FlowHub Maui. We actually started from scratch. We took all the early kind of information we learned about the space, and we said, let's kind of do it all over again, like knowing what we know now. And that's allowed us to create some really interesting omni-channel customer journeys, right? So if you're a customer that's buying online or getting delivery or going into a store, you should have kind of the same experience, right? I think it's like really, really critical. And I think we kind of hit on it a little bit with personalization. This is like a big theme that's kind of emerging. Consumers want to feel like when they're buying cannabis that it's like a regular store, right? That this is not some really kind of fringe industry and I should be freaked out, and it should feel like regular retail. It should feel better than regular retail. I mean, we can do it differently. We're a more modern industry, right? And so I think we're getting close actually when it comes to this omni-channel, experience for consumers. And it's been a long journey. I think Dutchie's been around for probably close to the same period we have, and we've been fighting the same fight of just trying to make this really easy for retail. And so I think that I'm most excited over the next couple of years to see how consumers start to buy through all these different channels and all kind of feel.
Now there's the challenge though, of course, that it's not federally allowed or federally regulated, so it's state regulated.
Oh, it's not yet?
I'm sorry, but soon. But
I don't think that matters, by the way.
Well, but I'm going to ask about this.
Perspective.
That's what I wanted to ask you.
We're not sitting here being held back in.
You don't think the differences in all the states make it more complicated?
But no one in this room should be sitting here saying, "Oh, our business isn't good," or "We can't do what we want to do because there's no federal legalization." The opportunities are here now. Today, we don't need to wait for that. We still can innovate and make the customer experience better, which is what.
And the challenge becomes an opportunity.
So federal legalization, I don't know. Anyone want to bet 5 years, 10 years? I wouldn't spend any time. Doesn't matter.
I mean, here's where it matters, right? We want to end 280E. I think we can all agree here. The most painful fucking IRS tax code issue of all time for industry.
Totally
That's really all that needs to end, right? That's literally it. We have banks, we have payments. Now they're not ideal, right? But at the end of the day, you can go in and buy with a debit card, and this industry is growing. And so I think, I agree with you, Wendy. Right? I'm actually curious to hear what you have to say, John and Chris, about this. But I feel like federal legalization, while it'd be amazing, and I cannot wait for that moment, we can exist without it, and we can thrive with it.
I don't want to get too waylaid into that subject matter because we could stay here the whole day. But what I am interested, though, is to the extent that you find there are challenges because different states have different regulatory frameworks. And how does that impact then the ultimate customer experience?
Right. I think it's certainly true that, if there was one traceability system to integrate with, if there was one traceability system that was consistent between markets, we could certainly spend a lot more R&D dollars on upgrading that customer journey. The reality, and I agree with Kyle, there's just a foundational component of building compliant software that you have to get right. We like to say, if the compliance isn't right, then nothing else really matters. If your business can't trust the point of sale solution, the e-commerce solution, whatever it is, to remain compliant and keep you compliant, then nothing else really matters because now you're risking your livelihood, you're risking your ability to even sell and serve customers. So it's certainly true that we've made a lot of progress. And when it comes to the market-to-market differences, I mean, that's what we should be good at. We have to be good at that. And just as time has gone on and we've learned a lot lot more about what a ideal consumer journey can look like. And of course, the OpEx of our customers trying to create that journey, we think we can do a lot more on the technology side. Compliance is never done, right? It's always trending towards the next thing, the next state, the next market, but making sure that the investments that we're making aren't just so focused on the bottom line, but also helping our consumers on the top line by adding new functions like personalization. And of course, market to market, there's things beyond compliance, right? There's nuance to what that consumer demographic is like, and that's where data and analytics really come into play to help, especially if you're running multiple markets, really understanding your customers' behavior, understanding what's driving them, being able to, in a handful of mouse clicks, go, why is this segment of my customers not coming back, providing deep insights. That's where I think we're trying to take the next step collectively as an industry, a tech provider industry, to help our retailers deeply understand what their customers are interested in. And I don't think anybody's really made great progress here, which is an exciting kind of next adventure and next journey for us as an industry.
So those metrics help you both understand your customers, understand how to improve the bottom line, which is important to everybody, but also improve the experience. I mean, there's a way to make all of that happen at the same time, which then inures to the benefit of the business. Yes? Great.
Yeah, I think that when you look at some of the things that personalization or the new tools that exist within a retail experience can provide, I think that one of the things that is very common that we get from our customers is that all of our customers are different. Right, and so some people might want to prioritize pushing low-moving product SKUs that are maybe sitting on the shelf too long. Some people might want to focus on high-margin items because margins are razor thin at their retail store. And so I think that the flexibility of being able to choose how you want to feature products within a menu or what products you want to display within your store, I think that level of in-store and digital merchandising and understanding kind of the product economics that you have in stock and then being able to have the data sets accurately at your disposal to then make those decisions to run a strong retail environment, not only for yourself, but also for the consumer. There's real benefit there. So from a marketing lens, when we talk about compliance, what's happening in cannabis is not new for us, right? Like liquor, politics. I used to work in hunting and fishing, which was guns and ammo advertisers. So like there are vice categories that existed before cannabis existed. All the solves are in place. The only difference to your points is we have to look at state regulation for creative rather than national, and so it's more of an inconvenience.
Now we've got people here who are in all different levels of the business. Some maybe are cannabis curious about getting a business. Some have, frankly, bigger budgets than others. How do you deal with retailers of different size? You've got the MSOs, and then you have maybe the one or two offs, and then those that have maybe 20 or 30 stores. How do you make sure that each of those companies with their diverse budgets and diverse needs all can satisfy the customer experience?
This is the toughest thing, right? Because you have, not only do you have these different states that Chris hit on, right, and these different regulatory frameworks, but you have, different types of dispensaries of different sizes operating different types of business models, retail business models in each of these states, right? So you have to build a platform that's incredibly flexible, right? That can work for the smallest mom and pop store, so they can create a super customer-centric experience in their own vision. And then down the street, there may be someone else that's the same size, but is kind of running the store differently. And then you might have we have a large MSO customer that we just brought on recently that's across many states, and they have to figure out how to take data across all these markets and bring it up and make business decisions, even though they're all kind of entirely different. And so I think it's really important when you think about building a customer-centric dispensary or retail environment, you got to really think about, serving the consumers in that area. I think about, we've got a customer in Michigan that I learned a lot from. They have, 12, 13 stores, and they were saying they used the data they were getting actually out of FlowHub to figure out that 2 of these stores were kind of more in a blue collar area and that they should be more value stores, and they doubled the revenue in these locations. And so because they figured out how to be customer-centric for the customers that were coming to those two particularly. They weren't the same as the other stores that they had in their enterprise. And so I think, like, you know, there's a lot of complexity here, but, you know, we're getting to a point where I think technology's matured enough where you can.
Wendy, you're shaking your head in agreement.
Well, this is part of the challenge and part of the beauty. Who's your customer, right? Even knowing who your customer is, and in some cases for a dispensary, the example you just used is perfect. It's everybody. Marketing to everybody without great technology is really difficult. The better this tech gets, the more we personalize, but you have to start with, at a dispensary, who's your customer? And in many dispensaries, you can say it's primarily X demographic, but in many dispensaries, it's everyone. You're Walgreens, and nobody here wants to be running a Walgreens, right, which is serving everybody. So it's part of the challenge, but part of the beauty of this technology.
And when you as an investor, I have to make sure that the company you're investing in has this type of infrastructure in place.
It's about how people are thinking about treating the customer, how they're thinking about interacting with the consumers and their customers, right? So in this case, we have the ultimate consumer and their customers.
Chris, you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think ultimately, you know, there's certainly a scale problem when you're an MSO running 100, 200 rooftops. But at the end of the day, you see the same problems plaguing a mom and pop one store that's plaguing, you know, store number 57 down in Florida. It's how am I building authentic connection with my customer? I think when the capital profile and the cost of capital has changed, you know, for the entire industry, a lot of the brute force strategies of discounting to no end and mass market, hoping that, you know, from a pure numbers game, we're going to get customers to come in the door and keep coming back. It's not really realistic anymore. So the amount of OpEx that goes into building some brand and customer affinity, it's not the same as it used to be. So now we're really focused on getting back to how am I giving my staff at my store, whether it's the person at check-in, right, doing more than just checking somebody's ID and sending them on their way, but actually turning that person into a marketing, a creative or a marketing positive motion. That's where the retail tech tools can come into play to say, oh, hey, you know, Kyle just checked in. Kyle's a big spender. Kyle loves edibles. Kyle bought this the last time he was in. Now you can create that kind of uncanny valley effect where every consumer that walks in the door feels like I come to this store because they know exactly what I like, and that builds really, really strong value and loyalty, and every single time they come back, it's just a better and better and better experience.
The data says this works, right? This is such a good point about personalization, right? You check in at the dispensary, you know, we have this NUG system that, like, you scan the ID and in the Greet app, it says, you know, happy birthday or welcome back. It's very friendly, so you have to think about it. You know, there's high turnover, right? But if they're trained enough to use the technology well, they can say, well, happy birthday, welcome back. They can repeat these things. It's right there in front of them. And when they get to the point of sale, you know, we've seen that people, you know, use the data they get there, similar to what you said. Are they a big spender? What are their favorite categories? It's all right there for them. So the budget doesn't have to think about it. You know, it's, hey, oh, I see you love concentrates. Tell me, like, you know, whatever. Like, yeah, we have a new special here.
It's an ugly, you know, fact of the industry that retail attrition is high and the turnover is high.
Insanely high.
And in listening to our customers, so
that.
much time and effort and cost would go into staff retention, and eventually it just doesn't work anymore. So that consumer that was coming in because they like to meet with their favorite bud tender and he's no longer there, she's no longer there, that's a problem. That can be solved and that can be kind of minimized as far as the end consumer effect.
So
using technology.
since the data is the thing we're talking about, have there been analysis done of how increasing the experience, improving the experience really impacts the bottom line and impacts profitability? I mean, is that something that your framework
you can see
give?
It in the data.
Well, that's my point.
It jumps out at you off the page.
So if these folks have retail establishments or want to open retail establishments, by using that type of data, they can be assured, and I'm not trying to sell your product, but I'm just trying to get to the point of reality. They can be assured that using that product not only makes it better for the customer, but as a consequence of that, the customer buys more, comes in more, is happier, stays more loyal. Yes?
Yeah, well, think about the people you spend time with. They know you well. You have a relationship.
Like Cheers.
Right? And it's like Cheers. Welcome back in, right? Like you feel like. Despite maybe someone not being there anymore, your favorite bud tender or whatever, it's still you're getting that same great experience. You think about your favorite retailer, right? It's an experience. Experiential retail works. And technology can really, you can really leverage it. I mean, we've seen in the data, right? Like basket sizes literally will increase if the bud tenders are looking at, oh, you previously purchased, you got to try this new thing, hey, and all the data is right there in front of them in the moment. There's no training needed.
John, I can see you want to react to this. Or did I misread your face? If not,
I was like, as a marketing company, we live and die basically by our ability to provide a return on the spend, right? And so we're very much leading with in early conversations with clients around, hey, what makes sense for you as far as a return on the dollars for the media that you're spending? And so I'm smiling because you guys don't have a return on ad spend metric on your softwares that you sell. It's built into our solution, right? It's the core component that everyone's judging by. And so whether it's sales, in-store sales, online sales, incremental sales, net new customers, these are some of the metrics that people are constantly looking at in order to understand, hey, is it a value? But I think what's important is yes, we have so much data available to us, and we need to train them.
There's a compliance point of this too. Let's not forget, each of the states want to know what you're doing in your businesses. You cannot do this on index cards. I mean, the reality is that beyond all the business reasons, there are compliance reasons where you have to.
But that's at the foundation of everything. Anybody who's in this industry for a day knows that compliance. You got to be great at it every minute of every day. But it's at the foundation. I don't think we spend too much time thinking about, how are we complying
it's quite
today?
It's a solved problem at this point,
yeah.
right? Compliance automation's very solved. I mean,
the compliance stuff, I look at it from the perspective, compliance has given this industry a great data set.
Yes.
Because of what you have to do from a compliance standpoint, from a marketing standpoint, everyone's coming in and giving your name, email, phone number, or address. You have a customer record that you're required to capture. It creates a massive customer data set that a lot of industries don't have access to. And so I think the compliance is actually a positive.
Makes the business smarter.
Yeah, they have almost this information.
It's also it's a non-negotiable, right?
Right,
There's no pushing back on it.
You want to keep the doors open.
So while we certainly, to Kyle and Wendy, it's something you just have to be aware of and you have to be good at it, and then you can start having any other conversation from there. But to your question and your point on data, I mean, Dutchie, we'll transact about $22 billion in volume this year. Across that entire data set, when we run the analysis, over 80% of transactions have some form of discount attached to it. And if we're really thinking about the health of the industry going forward, the race to the bottom model to keep a customer
is a disaster.
It's not sustainable.
Right.
It can't continue. So now when we're thinking about, well, how do I continue to build loyalty without hurting my margins, that is where we want to see the industry, and we want to help the industry really shift back to that authentic experience, to Kyle's term, experiential retail. It's something that I think has been a little bit overlooked over the past couple of years, but we want to see it come back in a big way in cannabis.
I think your point about the race to the bottom is such an important one, because the industry is still under so many challenges, so many opportunities, but still challenges. We can't afford to be, eating our own, so to speak. We've got to, I think, perceive ourselves in the same boat and try to row in the same direction rather than attack each other, which the race to the bottom oftentimes is. Wendy, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I think consumers are looking for, whether it's at the dispensary level or the brands within the dispensary, consumers are looking for brands that resonate, stories that resonate. And we've still got to, with turnover, right? So you've got some givens here, which is turnover roughly industry-wide of bud tenders to 50%. Right? I think many of us thought when we got into the business that, oh, wow, you can actually build a career selling weed. We're not going to see typical retail turnover. But here we are, 10 years, 12 years, however many years into this business, and the industry is seeing turnover north of 50% in a lot of cases. So how do you build that sticky relationship? How do you tell the story of the brands? How do you, and again, store brand and actual brands within.
And the attrition obviously is real and the turnover is real, but we also want to give our retailers the tools to reward performance, right? To build retention with their staff. So again, the data, the question of data and how you can leverage it to increase and improve your business isn't just about the customer side. It's also about the in-store efficiency. You know, which of my team members are driving, you know, the highest basket sizes? How am I rewarding them? How am I incentivizing them to stay? That's again something that, you know, is a big deal going forward.
And as a consumer,
when you see a team member and you're giving that person great feedback, look, the way you're talking to your customers, the way you're talking about products, look at the numbers, right? And people want to know that they're having an impact. So I think that's another great use of the data.
Yeah, it's a great point, actually. Like, there's so much behind the scenes stuff that you can do, right, outside of the view of the consumer to encourage a better consumer experience, right? And I think that comes down to, you know, even bud tender, individual bud tender or sales associate tracking. So they can even track their own performance against their own goals, right, in app. And I think that's it's incredibly important.
So what you do is you make the good bud tenders better bud tenders. And as a consumer, that's very important to me. I mean, I like that where I go, they know what I like, and they know also what they might want to suggest that I might want to consider. And it all comes from the data, which is really kind of amazing. The data just makes the personalization just so much better.
You have to have it. I mean, like, the data is completely critical, and I think, like, that's, if you think about the first chapter of the industry with tech, I think I think Chris would agree. But it was all about building, like, really, really awesome data tools, right? Like, it's basically like your data, you're vacuuming data in, and then you're figuring out how to, like, use it actionably. So you're not just looking at a graph or a chart, but it's like you're giving the bud tender, you're giving the inventory person, you're giving the manager, whoever the role is, very actionable information in real time that they can use to make decisions. But you have to, like, first start with the foundation of collecting all that data, right?
And then that information is very important to the marketing team, very important to the investors. So it really closes the circle.
It's incredibly important.
Yeah, when I was to that point, like, actionable data is something we talk about a lot because, right, you want, if you know that this segment of customers is buying your edibles, how can you now then take that information and turn them into an actionable ID in a marketing ecosystem, right? Like, a name and an email is not something you can use to target someone, so you've got to convert that. One of the things that we see a lot is that we see a shockingly low amount of retailers who are capturing emails and phone numbers on a consistent basis. And so being able to put in, like, you have all these tools, making sure that they're using them appropriately so that they're capturing the information to kind of build these customer data sets so they can then use them for their loyalty, for understanding lifetime value, for marketing initiatives, whatever it may be. I still do think that, you know, making sure that the bud tenders or the teams have those practices in place so that they're using the tools and getting the value that they can be getting out of them.
I walked into a dispensary in Chicago last week. I will not name the dispensary. They didn't ask for my email. The first time I had been in the dispensary, and I was kind of thinking, well, I wasn't probably going to give it to them anyway, but I thought, how did you miss that? Like, and someone didn't have the tool in their hand that said, ask them for their email.
Which is another question. What do you do by way of continuing training, you know, for these folks? To your point, that's somebody who wasn't trained well or wasn't.
So here's how you solve for that. There's ways to collect email, right? Like an emailed receipt. And
would you like it printed or
would you like
emailed?
it printed or emailed? Okay, here you type in your email
But
address.
if I do both?
Right, exactly. I mean, there's ways to do this where you work this data collection into the flow where it feels very natural. And it doesn't feel like this is like high friction. Yeah. You don't necessarily need to train
rather
for
intrusive,
that. Right. It just feels normal.
But why did that person not think of doing it? That's my point, and that's really kind of.
Well, operations are very important, right?
What's that?
Operations are important. How you actually define. And I think what we're starting to see is more and more of our retailers are focusing on what's your vision for a customer journey and why would a customer give you their email, right? I'm pretty privacy minded. If you just said give me your email, that might not be happening. But
if they had offered me a 20% discount as a first time,
there you go. Or it's
give him Kyle's email.
I probably would have traded.
Give him Kyle's email,
or give us your email and you'll get a free pre-roll, right?
I don't
Now we're hitting bottom line.
I don't think we need to be that different about it. Like I shop every day. I'm going into just retail stores, not every day, once in a while, but every time. It's to your point. It's like, let me email you a receipt. We don't have to reinvent the wheel in cannabis. There's existing technologies, there's existing standards and practices and processes that work, right? There's a lot of really strong retail stores that we should be using as a model, and we can take those playbooks and.
All right, we're at about 40-second mark.
I always say this every Benzinga, actually, and I tell everybody, just go do some secret shopping in your own stores.
Hang out in a dispensary.
Hang out in dispensaries. Go do this all the time. Be obsessed with the customer journey, and like go see what your own dispensaries are doing. Undercover boss it all day, every day. Seriously, it's a bit.
All right, to wrap this up, everybody has about 10 seconds. Talk about the existing software, what's on the horizon, what the future is going to look like, both short-term, long-term.
Yeah, so last week we announced Dutchie 2.0. It is Dutchie's largest product release ever. Very, very exciting.
This ad is ordered and paid for by Dutchie 2.0. Go ahead.
Like we've mentioned a lot today, personalization is a big part of it, providing more kind of in-house tools, bringing a lot of the data sets together, marketing, loyalty, et cetera. So it's really exciting, a lot of new great functionality there, and definitely check us out online.
John, final thoughts?
No thoughts. No, I'm just kidding. No, it's a lot of, for us, it's just continuing to scale, continuing to be able to understand the customer better, provide better inventory resources, access to in-store screens, online screens, improving the brand experience, the retailer experience, but giving them more and more insights and transparency onto what's working, what's not working, and allowing them to have control over kind of their campaign.
Wendy?
I'll cede my time to the gentleman.
Boy, oh boy.
Look, we're going to be here 25 years from now. I think at the end of the day, it's just about building for longevity. We're a profitable company today. I'm just constantly thinking, where are we going to go over the next decade? Right? It's thinking long term and building for the long term. That's what's critical in this space. Everyone should be thinking that here. We're in the like early 80s of computing. Okay, like we have a long ways to go.
All right, well, I'm 67. If I'm here 25 years ago, somebody's pushing me. So let's hear, by the way, a week ago I knew nothing about this topic. I'm basically just a lawyer. These people made me smarter. I think they made all of us smarter. Let's hear something for our panel. Thank you very much.